All right, time to meet tonight's guests now. Please welcome Bridgerton stars Luke Newton and Nicola Coughlan and music legend Boy George.
Come on.
What a sofa before me. So exciting. So, George, we're going to be talking Culture Club in just a bit. But, Luke, you actually have a connection to George's music, I think.
Yes, absolutely. My auntie did one of the first productions of Taboo in London, and I was in the audience. I think I was 9. I was probably too young to watch that show at the time. And then I went to the 20th anniversary and saw you there. So, yeah, big fan.
Yeah, no, it was great doing Taboo. That was my first experience of theatre.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that. And a big influence on you, obviously.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Fantastic. OK.
OK, in just a moment, Boy George will be telling us about the return of Culture Club. But first, OK, now time to talk music. Boy George fans were very happy when the news broke yesterday that Culture Club are hitting the road for a brand new tour.
Can't wait. Before George tells us all about it, let's remind ourselves of just a few of the band's greatest hits. Some absolute classics there. And, of course, Karma Chameleon at the end, which, despite hitting the #1 spot in 16 countries, I think, almost didn't make the album, George.
No, the guys hated it. They absolutely hated it. When I sang it to Roy and Mikey in Roy's kitchen in Earl's Court, he was like, it's the worst thing you've ever written. And for some reason, we'd had a couple of hits, you know, and I just, you know, when you've had a couple of hits, you become an expert. And I decided it was going to be #1. And I went to Egypt on holiday with a cassette of it, and I kept playing it. I was like, this is a #1 record. And it was.
Wow.
So
for
you
about
were
8
right.
weeks.
The pleasure of
I should have
being
kept
right.
all the publishing, but I ended up sharing it with them, even though they hated it.
Well, that song comes from a very special period in your career, George. And that's what this tour that you're going on is all about, isn't it?
Well, what my manager does, he calls you up and he says, you won't want to do this. That's his starting point. And he goes, what do you think about doing Kissing to Be Clever, which was our first album, and then Calibre Numbers? Obviously, we won't do every song, but I'm always keen to put, like, things we don't do. Because, you know, when you tour, you tend to do the same things. And we've got quite a lot of interesting records and albums. So, actually, it's going to be really interesting to revisit that sound, because I got kicked out of Bow Wow Wow. So I was trying to recreate that sound with Culture Club. So that first album is so stylised, and then what we became was very different. So it's going to be good to see if we can capture that same kind of youthful exuberance that we had when we started.
Well, this is it. So the sound was changing, which is interesting, but also life was changing. I mean, Colour by Numbers, Kissing to Be Clever, 2 huge albums, and they catapulted the band to global fame. Was there a moment when you realised the scale of your success, when it really hit home?
I remember we were on tour and I was in Scotland and we had to cancel a gig because I lost my voice and the crowd were booing and it was so upsetting because the band wouldn't go on and say, we have to cancel the gig, they made me do it. The next day we were #1. So we went from sort of having this terrible gig where I couldn't sing a note because I've just never been on the road before, to the next morning going, you're #1. So it was like, it was quite amazing.
We've had, again, like I said to you before, loads of messages in. Emma has said, I can't wait to see Boy George for the 5th time in December. I just love him. Can you ask him what his favourite song is from the first 2 albums? Mine is Victims.
Probably. Victims is a good one. There's a song called Mr. Man from the first album that we've never played live. That's like really interesting because it feels like it should have been written now.
Yeah.
It's about bullies and, you know, just that whole thing. And it's like, we feel like everything goes in a circle. Like we're still having the same arguments that we had 30 years ago. It's kind of amazing. So I can't wait to do that.
Well, speaking of arguments, George, you said you're calling this tour the Zero Arguments Tour. Why is that?
Well, we know what we've got to work with, right? Songs from this album, songs from that album, so there can't be any debates about, you know, that. We'll argue about what songs we do, but... you know, I think we try not to argue. We used to argue a lot, you know, that was our thing. Now we try not to, or at least I try not to.
What have you replaced it with? What's taken the place of
Joy.
Joy?
Absolute joy. Yeah, all the time. Just, enjoying it.
I think you've already announced, haven't you, that there's going to be some special guests joining you on this tour?
Yeah, we've got Tony Hadley and Heather 17, who I love, so that's really nice.
Nice.
Fantastic. And I mean, you've been on stage in another form recently. You starred as the impresario Harold Zidler in Moulin Rouge on Broadway earlier this year. How was it?
I did 4 months. I actually got an attendance record. Apparently, I'm the only Zidler that's done every show. And I was like, this makes up for school. I couldn't believe it. But yeah, I just loved it. I actually enjoy working, so I find working actually quite relaxing. When people say, was it hard? I'm like, as running around in a wig and Cuban heels. It wasn't hard. Hard is when you're being bored. So I really enjoyed it. I loved it. I learnt a lot. The cast were amazing. People were very, America, they're very
Maybe the wig and the heels was what was missing at school.
The wig, I've got to get another wig though. The wig was amazing. It was like, I kept it was my own hair. I was like, no.
Well, you loved it, but we can actually find out what the critics think because, Luke, you actually went to see it.
Yeah, I didn't get to say this to you before because I was like, I didn't want to come on too strong. That I've been to every show, but
it's true.
It was I think it was the night before the premiere in London, in New York. And my mum was with me and my sister, and we were looking at what was online, and it was your last show on Broadway.
Oh, it was such a fun show.
It was incredible.
You came to the best show.
Yeah.
That's what I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Lucas, you're lucky job.
I know. Yeah.
Thanks
I need
a
to book
lot.
my tickets for the tour. I think.
Exactly. Yeah. You've got to get on the guest list, surely.
Best show to go to, the last show. If you get that wrong, you've really...
Super fun, he'll be on it. Well, tickets for the tour go on sale at 9:30 this Friday, which is actually your birthday, isn't it?
Yes, I know. If you don't buy a ticket, you're really mean.
Happy birthday for Friday. Next up, lots of messages coming in. Andre says, please wish a big happy birthday to George for Friday. I'm a huge fan of his and we share the birthday.
Very nice.
And Donald Trump.
Oh.
40th of June. Just to name a few.
Just drop that in there. Dee says, please let Nicola know how beloved she is. We could not have asked for a better Penelope.
That's so lovely.
Isabella asked, where'd you find the energy, George? Loved you forever.
And Heather says, absolutely love Bridgerton. I've been glued to every second and I can't wait to see part 2. People are absolutely in love with
It's
this show.
so nice.
You have to go on forever.
Yeah.
That's it. You have to keep working forever.
Season 4 is in the works, don't you worry.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, thank you so very much to all of our guests tonight, Luke, Nicola and George.
I'll be back tomorrow with Alex, and you can find us on BBC Two and iPlayer. We'll be joined by Jason Donovan, and Nikki will be here with Watchdog. Have a lovely evening.
Bye.